When families face troubled times, pets are sadly often the first to suffer. They are neglected in terms of food and attention, or sometimes even abandoned. Much of the time, there's no system in place to help these animals survive either. However, there are generous individuals out there willing to do the right thing. One dentist started looking after forlorn pets when a disaster hit his community, though he soon realized that it might cost him everything he owned. If you ask the people of Crete about Theoklitos Prostakis, you'd likely see a lot of puzzled looks. But if you mentioned him by his nickname, Takis, just about everyone would know him. He's got quite a reputation on that island. The Greek man practiced dentistry in the picturesque town of Ierapetra, and neither he nor his neighbors ever thought they could ask for more. But by 2009, their dream lifestyles began to crumble. The global financial crisis hit Greece extremely hard, and the following years saw the country's debt and unemployment skyrocket. As some households lost everything, riots and protests broke out on the streets. All over the Isle of Crete, families made heartbreaking decisions to save money, particularly when it came to their pets. Some people abandoned their animals out in the wilderness. Others did much worse. The aftermath nearly broke Takis. A lifelong canine lover, he couldn't believe it when he drove past a local landfill. Countless dogs had made it their home, and they were fighting over scraps to survive. Unable to bear the sight of these poor animals suffering, the dentist gave them some relief. He snuck through the fence and poured a bag of dog food in a clearing. As the dogs scarfed it up, Takis noticed many of them were in dire need of medical attention. For the weakest pooches, Takis called in some favors from doctor friends to nurse them back to health. Still, he knew this was a short-term solution. If these dogs stayed out in the open, most of them would die. Fortunately, an open stretch of land on the outskirts of Ierapetra presented a solution. Takis figured that it could function as a temporary sanctuary for the abandoned dogs. At the very least, it would be better than living in the dump. In 2012, the Cretan began moving the neglected pooches to the site, which he dubbed the Takis shelter. He hoped the dogs could hole up there until they found permanent homes, though the situation immediately proved more complicated than he imagined. Some neighbors complained about the noise from the dogs, and a few hotheads even threatened violence. Nevertheless, Takis blocked out their insults and warnings. He had enough to deal with inside his own organization. As more dogs entered the shelter, his costs spiraled out of control. For one thing, he spent nearly $2,000 per month just feeding all the pooches. But some had even more expensive needs. A number of the dogs weren't spayed or neutered, so Takis paid for these operations out of pocket to keep his shelter population from spiraling out of control. Before long, he took extreme measures to keep everything from going under. Takis essentially gave up his old life. He already left dentistry behind to care for Crete's abandoned dogs, but soon enough, he also had to sell his home and his car just to pay the bills. There was almost nothing left for him. From there on out, the Takis shelter also became the home of its founder. He slept and took his meals right alongside the animals he was rescuing and feeding. Many people would have considered this rock bottom. But strangely enough, Takis felt more fulfilled than ever before. While there was no denying that his new life was hard, he knew he was really making a difference. And word about his mission started to get around too. As the population of the shelter approached 200, Takis felt increasingly overwhelmed, but he wouldn't be alone for long. Both friends and strangers from Ierapetra began to show up at the gates. They wanted to lend a helping hand. Though not everyone had the time to volunteer, many more aided Takis's efforts in their own ways. Crates of food and pet supplies, mostly from other countries, arrived on his doorstep. Suddenly, Takis had enough support to do more than just scrape by. As a matter of fact, Takis opened up a new branch of the shelter specifically for abandoned house cats. After all, dogs weren't the only ones kicked out of their homes after the recession. In time, Takis shelter finally began achieving its ultimate goal, finding permanent homes for their pets. Delighted visitors swarmed in to find a new family member and left with huge smiles on their faces. For Takis, it's bittersweet to see his canine pals leave him, but he knows they're off to a better place. He continues to pull unfortunate pups out of landfills and alleys every day, though now he's sure he's not just giving them shelter. He's giving them hope. After all, there's no sight more joyful than a new dog adoption. Have you ever been so excited you had to bite something? If not, then you've never been on the same happiness level of this golden doodle pup, who forewent the lame duck version of got your nose by literally getting his new owner's schnoz. She found this pup on the side of the road and was going to bring her to the local shelter, but then she saw her face and, well, let's just say she ended up bringing her back to her own house. Can you blame her? If you adopt a dog and she immediately poses for a selfie with you while grinning ear to ear, it's safe to say you made a good choice. It's nothing but clear skies for these two besties from here on out. As the classic club song once decreed, putting your hands in the air is strictly reserved for those who just don't care. But don't tell this pup that. She and her new family couldn't have looked more excited about their future of friendship. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then all 1,000 words for this one would be some variation of all over and over. The look of total relaxation and comfort on this dog's face says it all. A really memorable morning might include breakfast in bed, but a puppy wake-up call seems a whole lot better than a tray of toast, bacon, and coffee. All you need is one look at this cuddly doggo's face for proof. What's cuter than a puppy and his new owner gazing lovingly into one another's eyes? You can tell they're thinking of the next dozen or so years of friendship. That, or this doggo is hoping to borrow the keys to the car. A little sunshine and a hug from a new owner, what more could a dog want? Not a whole lot judging by the look on this girl's face. Her gleeful expression would have looked perfectly in place in a shampoo ad. That's a big smile for a little dog. Of course, Tata the pup couldn't help herself after she'd finally been adopted and taken back to her forever home. And because of her happiness, her new owner couldn't help but smile too. Every year he asked for a puppy for Christmas, and every year, his wife declined. That's another mouth to feed, after all. But one year, his Christmas wish was finally granted, and he couldn't keep the shock off of his face. If adventurers ever found the legendary fountain of youth, chances are, it would be a 10-foot deep pit full to the brim with puppies. Nothing energizes a person or makes them smile like a puppy, and this senior citizen who just met her new companion knows that better than anyone. There's no doubt that being a police officer must be one of the most stressful jobs on the entire planet. Cops tend to have a tough exterior while on duty, but this officer couldn't help but melt when he hugged his new puppy. When this woman adopted her new pooch, she couldn't help but cradle him like her a newborn baby. Judging by the look on this dog's face, he didn't mind that at all. He was ready for a lifetime of love. As this Reddit user put it, I went to adopt a dog and ended up with a bear. He didn't seem too upset about it. Now with a big doggo at his side, he'll be able to tackle anything the future might hold. There's a certain stigma that comes with adopting an older dog. They tend to have a variety of health issues, but this guy didn't care when he picked out this pretty pooch. They posed for a quick picture outside the shelter, where she really nailed the adorable lolling tongue. It's hard to tell the difference between a well-formed "can we keep him" face and an "I love this dog so much" face, but rest assured, this girl's making both. You can tell there's a lot of love in this pup's future. Emotions can run wild when you meet a new pet for the first time, and perhaps there's no greater proof than this guy's reaction. When his significant other surprised him with a new dog, he broke down in tears. You bring your new dog home, and what's the first thing you're gonna do? Throw a backyard party with your new pooch, that's what. Maybe if you're lucky, the dog will even make the same face as you when you pose for a selfie. The woman in this photo suffered from depression. Life, to her, felt incredibly hopeless. When she finally felt she was on firm ground again, emotionally, she treated herself to a little puppy. This single snapshot captures the beauty of the moment she took him home. What's the best cure for a grumpy dad who just wants to watch Netflix? Why, a puppy, of course. The question is, who won this staring contest? They say there's no medicine quite like a child's laughter, but maybe children sleeping with their canine best friend for the next decade or so is a close pharmaceutical second. Rest now, fellas, cause there's gonna be a whole lot of playing when you wake up. Oddly, this photo looks like a scene ripped right out of a Pixar movie or a photo from a pamphlet on the joys of dog ownership. Either way, it's hard not to want to give your own pooch a hug after getting a load of this kid. As one Reddit commenter pointed out, the camera may have been quick enough to catch this protruding puppy's tongue, but it still couldn't capture his fast-flicking tail. The picture practically bleeds enthusiasm. Their faces said it all. The little girl, overcome with glee at her new Christmas gift, perhaps thinking about a future of mischief with this new pup. The pup, that placid, tongue-lolling look, couldn't make a better "I'm a puppy" face if he or she tried.